Now let's say we had a similar situation. Before we had we had something like maybe x squared times sine x. What happens if we had x squared over sine x? If you have this case where you have some function over another function, you use a very simple rule called the quotient rule. And it's actually very similar to the product rule. And it's actually an adaptation of the product rule, which if you did a little algebra you can figure out. But let's just go ahead and talk about this cheat code here, the quotient rule. If you have some function that seems to be composed of a function over another function, you do just like you did in the product rule. You take the derivative of, like, let's say this one first, which is 2x, and you multiply it by just that one left alone. Change colors there. Go back to blue. Sine x. Then you take the derivative of the bottom, like we did before, cosine x, and you multiply it by the top one left alone. Now in this case, you subtract the two values, and you divide everything by the denominator squared, which in this case would just be sine squared x. That's the quotient rule. So our derivative at that point, our slope at that point, x would be 2x sine x, which is the derivative of the top times the bottom, minus the derivative of the bottom times the top, all over the bottom squared. That's highly technical terminology there, bottom, right? Another example, let's say we had x to the fourth over e to the x. So again, the slope at any point would just be derivative of the top times the bottom minus the bottom derivative, which again, derivative of e to the x is just e to the x. That's nice and handy. Times x to the fourth all over the bottom squared, which would be e to the x squared. Voila.